Shemaine Hurtado with Yoga Ball Dressage. This is the Riders Training Pyramid series. I'm calling it Yoga Ball Dressage 3. So last week we had the first installment, which was focusing in on flexibility and core engagement. And this week we're going to talk about posture and balance. And this Riders Training Pyramid that I had found actually on the internet, it has as the next step muscular stamina, but I thought about it and I don't really like that before posture and balance. So I'm going to flip these steps and say we're going to work on posture and balance first, because it's no good to work on muscular stamina if you're doing it wrong. So, and the posture is all about using the correct muscles. So that's what we're going to focus in on today. And I wanted to say something about last week's installment about flexibility, and a friend of ours on YouTube mentioned that it was not good to stretch cold muscles, and I agree with her, and that's a really good point. I was thinking that you were going to be doing this at the barn, so theoretically you would be walking to go get your horse out of its stall and walking it to the cross ties and getting your saddle and your bridle, and so you would be hopefully walking around doing things to get started with your ride and doing the stretches during that time. That's why I mentioned doing the shoulder stretch on the cross ties and the hamstring stretch on the mounting block, the lunging stretch while you're just holding your horse, the hip flexor stretch, I should say. So anyway, so that was my thought process on that, and I just wanted to briefly explain that. So that wasn't very brief, but Anyway, I'm a trainer. I can get long-winded. So we're going to talk about posture and balance. So everyone knows that we want to be able to have a upright position, okay? Because if you're looking down, you're always rounding your spine to a certain extent. And dressage riders in particular, we like to look at the horse's head all the time to see if it's still there. And, most of the time it's still there. So we need to check, and this is one of the reasons why I say that dressage riders at least look snobby. Some of them are, but hopefully not all. And so if you are in a correct balance, or correct posture, then you're looking straight ahead, and your shoulder, hip, and heel are in the same line, which mine relatively are. On the yoga ball, it's a little harder to have the heel in line because of the width of the ball. It's wider than our horse, and of course on the horse we're sitting in our saddle, so it's a little different as well. You're a little more positioned that way. So anyways, if you are looking down at your horse and you are not very practiced at keeping your shoulders back, then you're going to drop, okay? And when you drop that chest and you roll your shoulders forward, one of the things that happens is your hands rotate like puppy dog paws. We don't want that. So if you have a problem, if your instructor tells you thumbs up all the time, then that is because it's a part of a muscle chain. So when you bring your hands up here and your thumbs are pointing to the bit, then you have a straight forearm here that allows your shoulders to rotate back, okay? And we don't want to rotate back so far that we arch the back, but you want to rotate back to where you're in a neutral position. So neutral position is what I'm trying to sit in right now. Now, when you're engaging your core or driving, that's a different position. Now, when you come back to neutral position, it should be straight and square, and then back up to driving position and back down to neutral position. Same thing in the canter. If you're cantering, you're going forward, driving, back to neutral. That shoulder, hip, heel is so important, because if you are rounding anywhere, like this, chair seat, your knees come up, and that's how you get that chair seat when you lean back too far. And when you lean back too far, you tend to, again, use the wrong muscles and compress your spine to sit the trot up and down, compressing your spine vertically, as opposed to when you're in a neutral position and then you drive, then you're using that core as opposed to using your back itself compressing. So we don't want to compress those vertebrae. The other thing that most people make a mistake of is they rotate this way. And so now you're in a perched position where your legs might be back a little further and your pelvis is tilted backwards, and then they sit the trot a little bit backwards. And this is what I'm talking about posture today, as opposed to muscle stamina. So recently I've given several lessons over the last few weeks, and one of them was a clinic and people that I don't see all the time. And some people are riding like this, and they're working on their sitting trot, and it's working the wrong muscles. So again, if you're working like this, you're compressing your spine and you're kind of doing this motion with your vertebrae. And so now you're working these muscles in your back and you're sticking out your stomach muscles as opposed to pulling them in, which is what you need to do to sit that trot effectively in a driving seat, as opposed to I'm sitting on top of you and kind of moving with you, but now you're moving backwards instead of forward, okay? So you can't ride that horse to its full extent of its stride if you're pushing your tailbone backwards, okay? So that's one thing. Balance, that's another thing. So if you are on your stirrups and you are, if you are on your stirrups and you are balanced, then you should have equal seat bones in the saddle. The line here represents my horse's spine, and so I want that spine to be in the middle of my belly button. And so if it's not, then I know that I have a problem. Maybe my horse has a little bit of a muscle development asymmetry, but also I can compensate for that. So that's what, we're talking about here, is riding your horse as symmetrically as you can. So if you sit on, let's say if your habit is collapsing your right hip, and then you therefore sit to the left more, and you can see my ball, the spine moves, then my horse is going to be really heavy on my right rein most of the time. So as you know from the rider's training pyramid, or the horse's training pyramid, my mistake, straightness leads to collection. But before straightness has to come suppleness. So if you are not supple like your horse, bending, relaxing, and engaging on purposefully, one side or the other, then you cannot have symmetry and be straight yourself, okay? So that's something that's really important. We'll do more of that next week with the muscular stamina episode. But primarily what I wanted to talk about today was your neutral position, your driving position, and maintaining those shoulder, hip, and heel straightness with your neutral position so that you are straight and able to drive your horse effectively forward and use the right muscles when doing that. And so again, we're kind of working on core engagement. We're kind of working on flexibility. So we're working that pyramid upwards to the top, which is being able to ride with relaxation, focus, and intent. So those are the things that we want to build towards. I think, one of the things that I say to riders is do the sexy shoulder. So if you are riding to the left, okay, and you aren't turning your body to the left, your shoulders to the left. So if you have your hands on your reins and you are trying to turn left, what I first say is make sure you have an outside rein connection. The second thing is sit on that left seat bone. Then check and see if you have a little flexion in your horse's neck. You can look down your nose at them right then, because dressage riders always have the reputation of being snobs. And so one of the things that I always say is then look down your nose at your horse. Instead of looking down at your horse to see if it's round, just look down your nose. We have peripheral vision. We have that gift. So we have to use it, or remember to use it. So when you start to turn left though, from your circle, you have outside rein, you have inside seat bone weight aid, and you have flexion in your horse's neck to create the bend in the rest of the spine. Then you have to turn your body and show your horse where you want to go. So what I always say is make sure that your hands are turning with your body. Some people, they turn like this, and that's just not enough for the horse to get the idea sometimes. So I always turn my whole body, and my zipper should turn slightly, so it's facing where I'm going. My shoulders should turn slightly. But one of the things that can help with this is when you're riding straight forward and you have all the first couple elements, bring the shoulder around and back, and then it will help you lift your chest while you make that turn, okay? So we'll do it to the side. And I'm going to say, okay, I have my outside rein, I have my inside seat bone weight aid, and I'm going to check my flexion. Yes, I have flexion. I'm looking down my nose at my horse to make sure it has some flexion in its neck. And then I turn my body. Now, if I don't do that enough, if I have a problem, I have a tight right or left shoulder, then I'll bring the shoulder up to my ear and back and down, and I call that the sexy shoulder, and then turn. And then you have a better ability to lift your chest because your shoulder's back. If you're a little bit tight here and then you turn, then you're gonna bring that chest in, and actually that kind of hurts me right here on my stomach muscles because I'm compressing now. So I want to be able to lift and go forward balanced around that turn, okay? Your horse's balance has so much to do with your balance and vice versa. So balance is a toughie because if your horse is slightly imbalanced, then you are going to be slightly imbalanced. And then you have the job of compensating for your horse's imbalance. And that can be really difficult. But if you can implement your seat bone weight aids, your neutral position, your driving position, then you can overcome most of your horse's issues, because then you can ride with intent to send him into the outside rein that he doesn't want to be on, or you can ride with intent to bend him in the direction that you want to bend him, or you can ride with intent to create the rhythm that you want to create with your driving and neutral positions. One of the things that is a good little exercise to do while you're on the yoga ball for balance though is to take your weight off of one foot and check your position. Upright position, put that foot down, try with the other foot. So you have to, it's kind of hard. I mean, I'm not even lying. I'm doing it and I'm having a little bit of issue. So you can kind of check that you can sit up straight though while you do that. Of course, you're going to take a little bit of weight out of that seat bone. But when you are riding and you have trouble putting weight into one stirrup or the other, I always say, take the weight off of the right to put it into the left. Take the weight off of the left to put it into the right, okay? And yes, my body is swaying a little bit when I do that, but I'm exaggerating it. So you can do that as well. Exaggerate, deepening that weight aid to the new direction, okay? So a couple little balance things, a few tips on position, and I hope you enjoyed this installment of the Rider's Training Pyramid and Yoga Ball Dressage 3B. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.